You never expect a quiet weekend at the lake to turn into a nightmare. For me, the cabin wasn't just a getaway. It was home. It was the place where my wife and I brought our kids in the summer, where my grandfather taught me how to fish, where generations of my family had built memories on the water. But all of that peace shattered the day Karen showed up. Now, you've heard of HOA Karens, before the clipboard warriors, the self-appointed rule enforcers, the women who think they own every inch of the neighborhood. But this wasn't just petty fines or nagging about grass length. This was something far darker. It started small, like it always does. She didn't like the way my grandfather stacked firewood near the dock. She said my wife's flower pots were not regulation colors. She even complained that the American flag we flew on the porch was too large. We laughed it off. At first, my wife would shake her head, Grandpa would mutter under his breath, and I'd try to remind myself that people like Karen thrive on control. But deep down, I knew her type. I'd seen it before, entitled Dangerous When Challenged. The breaking point came one summer evening. My wife and Grandpa were sitting out by the water, watching the sunset, while I grilled dinner inside. I remember the smell of smoke, the sound of sizzling meat, the way the golden light danced on the lake. It was supposed to be perfect, and I heard it, a crack. Loud, sharp, different from fireworks. Different from wood splitting. My blood went cold. I knew that sound better than anyone. A gunshot. I dropped the tongs, heart pounding, and ran to the porch. And what I saw froze me in my tracks. Karen standing at the edge of our property. Her blonde hair disheveled, her purple jacket half slipping off one shoulder. Both hands wrapped around a pistol that glinted in the dying light. Her face twisted in rage, and on the ground, my wife. She was clutching her shoulder. Blood soaking through her shirt, her eyes wide with shock. My grandfather was beside her, struggling to push himself up, his cane knocked away, his leg bleeding. From a second shot, I couldn't move. For a split second, the world spun. My family, my world on the ground, screaming in pain, and Karen was screaming too. This is my lake, my rules. You don't belong here. Her voice was shrill, unhinged, echoing across the water. Neighbors were frozen in the distance, some ducking behind trees, others recording with trembling hands. But no one moved. No one came forward. And that's when something inside me snapped. Karen didn't know who she was dealing with. She thought I was just another man with a cabin, another neighbor she could push around, another family she could terrorize. But I wasn't. I wasn't just a husband or a grandson or a neighbor. I was the commander of the SWAT team, and she had just started a war she couldn't possibly win. The second that pistol cracked through the air, my training kicked in. Fear tried to claw its way into my chest. But years of service had drilled one thing into me: act fast or people die. I sprinted across the deck, dropping low, every muscle tense, every sense sharp. My wife was on the ground, blood seeping through, her shirt, tears streaking her face as she pressed her hand against the wound. My grandfather, tough as iron even in his 80s, was trying to shield her with his body despite his own bleeding leg. I barked, sliding across the dirt toward them. My voice wasn't just a husband's voice. It was the command of a man who had led men into gunfire. My wife's eyes locked on mine, desperate, terrified. But she nodded. Karen was pacing now, the pistol shaking in her grip. Her face was twisted, red, unhinged. "You don't respect the rules," she screamed. "You think you're better than us. This whole place belongs to me." The neighbors kept their distance. Some were shouting, some crying, but nobody dared step in. It was chaos. And me, I felt my blood boiling. She had crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. She had taken her obsession, her entitlement, and turned it into violence. But she didn't know who she was aiming that gun at. Slowly, carefully, I positioned myself between Karen and my family, raising one hand, calm, steady, deliberate. "Karen," I said, voice low but commanding, "put the gun down." She laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "Or what you'll call the police. You'll beg for help," she sneered, pointing the barrel toward me now, her hands trembling with rage. "This is my neighborhood. I am the law here." For a moment, our eyes locked, and all I saw in her gaze was madness. She truly believed her words. She believed her clipboard authority had transformed into real power. I took one step forward, just one, enough to let her know she wasn't scaring me, enough to let her see the fire in my eyes. "You're making a mistake. You can't come back." I said, she faltered. Just for a second, the gun wavered. Her lip trembled. But then, like a cornered animal, she screamed and raised it higher, her finger twitching on the trigger. That's when I realized talking wasn't going to end this. I turned my head just enough to catch my grandfather's eyes. "Get her." Inside, I whispered. "Now." He nodded, grabbing my wife with all the strength left in him, dragging her toward the cabin as she whimpered in pain. My heart twisted at the sound, but I couldn't look back. Not now, because my focus was on Karen. And though she thought she had the upper hand, she didn't know the truth. I wasn't just a neighbor. I wasn't just another target. I was the commander of the SWAT team. And if she thought I was going to let her walk away after pulling that trigger on my family, she had no idea what was coming next. Karen's hands trembled on the pistol, her chest heaving, her voice rising into hysterics. "You think you can defy me? I warned you. I warned all of you. This is my community, and I won't let you ruin it." Her words cracked through the night, echoing over the still waters of the lake. Neighbors stood frozen, torn between fear and fascination, their phones raised, recording what they couldn't quite believe. I stood my ground. Every instinct screamed at me to rush her, to end this before another shot rang out. But training reminded me, patience saves lives. "Karen," I said slowly, firmly, with the voice I had used to command men in hostage situations. "You're way out of your depth. Drop the weapon now," she sneered, lifting the barrel higher. "Don't talk to me like that. You don't tell me what to do. You're nothing." I took a single step forward, my eyes never leaving hers. My voice dropped. Lower, colder. "Karen, I am the commander of the SWAT team. I have led men into buildings with bombs strapped to the walls. I have disarmed killers twice your size with half the warning. You're pointing that gun at the wrong man." The words hit her like a wave. She faltered. The arrogance in her eyes flickered with doubt, fear creeping in around the edges. Her grip slipped for just a moment, the gun dipping before she jerked it back up again. "You're lying," she hissed, though the crack in her voice betrayed her. From the corner of my eye, I saw movement, my grandfather pulling my wife inside, neighbors gasping, whispering, the weight of the moment pressing down on everyone. I straightened, letting the authority in my voice carry across the yard. "You're surrounded, Karen. You may not see them, but my team knows who I am, and they're already on their way. If you fire again, if you so much as twitch that finger, you won't just face Mule, face the entire SWAT division of this city." Her jaw clenched. She looked around wildly, suddenly aware of the dozens of eyes on her, of the phones capturing her every twitch. For the first time, she looked small, cornered, vulnerable. But people like Karen, when they're backed into a corner, don't fold. They lash out. And I saw it in her eyes, that spark of desperation. Her hands steadied, her breathing slowed. And then, in a voice so quiet it sent a chill through me, she said, "Then I guess we'll see who fires first." The gun lifted, and in that instant, time slowed. My mind raced through every scenario, every tactic, every second of training I'd endured over decades. She had already shot my wife and grandfather. I couldn't allow another bullet to fly. I shifted my stance, heart hammering, ready to move, ready to end this before she pulled the trigger. Karen had no idea that in threatening my family, she hadn't just provoked a neighbor, she had provoked a commander trained for this exact moment, and the war she had started was about to end. The world slowed to a heartbeat. Karen's finger tightened around the trigger, her body stiff, her face twisted in rage. I'd seen that look before, in hostage-takers, in desperate men with nothing left to lose, but never in a neighbor. Never. In someone who once handed out HOA newsletters like they were law. The crowd gasped, kids cried, someone screamed, "She's gonna shoot!" And in that instant, I moved. Years of SWAT training surged through my veins. My stance shifted, my weight dropped, my focus tunneled. I lunged sideways just as Karen fired, the deafening crack tearing through the night. The bullet splintered wood from the cabin post, inches from where I'd been standing. Screams erupted around us. The neighbors scattered, diving behind cars, ducking behind trees. Karen's wild eyes darted, her hands shaking violently now as she tried to steady the pistol again. But she didn't understand. This wasn't chaos for me. This was clarity. I closed the distance fast, boots slamming against the dirt, my voice booming across the yard. "Drop it, Karen, now." She swung the pistol wildly toward me again, her breath ragged, her body trembling with adrenaline. But before she could realign her shot, I struck my hand, snapped down on her wrist, twisting it with precision. The gun fired again, the shot tearing harmlessly into the ground, sparks spitting from a stone. Karen shrieked in pain, her fingers splaying open, the pistol clattering onto the dirt. In one motion, I kicked it out of reach, sending it skidding across the yard into the grass. Karen thrashed, clawing, spitting curses, trying to pull away, but she was no match for me. I forced her down, pinning her arms behind her back with the same practiced control I'd used on hundreds of suspects before her. The crowd roared, gasping, whispering, phones captured every second. The queen of the HOA, the woman who terrorized families with fines and threats, now lay face down in the dirt, her power stripped away in front of the entire neighborhood. She screamed into the earth, her voice hoarse, desperate. "You can't do this to me. I'm in charge here. I make the rules." But her words were drowned out by the sound that followed the wail of sirens cutting through the night. Red and blue lights flashing across the trees, reflecting on the rippling lake water. Backup had arrived. My team, the same men and women I had led into raids, who had trusted me with their lives, now rushed forward with weapons drawn, their boots pounding the ground, their eyes snapping to me. And when they saw Karen pinned beneath my knee, recognition sparked in their faces. "Commander," one of them shouted. I nodded, breathing heavy but steady. "She's done. Take her." They swarmed in, securing her, cuffing her, reading her rights as she continued to shriek about her rules and her lake. And as I stood there, chest heaving, blood on my shirt from my wife's wound, sweat dripping down my forehead, I realized Karen had just lost everything. Her power, her control, her delusion of authority. She thought she could terrorize us with her clipboard, with her voice, with her gun. But she had made the mistake of aiming her madness at the wrong family. Because when she fired that first shot, she didn't just declare war on us. She declared war on me, and I was the commander of the SWAT team. The red and blue lights bounced off the lake, flashing across the faces of my neighbors. For years, they had feared Karen. She had ruled with her clipboard, her fines, her constant threats. But now, that power lay broken in the dirt. Karen was cuffed, her face streaked with tears and fury as my team guided her into the back of a squad car. She screamed the same words over and over, her voice cracking into madness. "I make the rules. You can't do this to me. This is my neighborhood." But nobody listened, not the neighbors, not the officers, not me, because the truth was out. Everyone had seen it with their own eyes. She wasn't the queen of the HOA. She wasn't the enforcer of the rules. She was just a dangerous, entitled woman who had gone too far. And now, she was finished. I turned back toward the cabin, where paramedics were working on my wife and grandfather. My wife clutched my hand, pale but alive, whispering, "You got her. You stopped her." My grandfather, stubborn as ever, growled through gritted teeth. "Damn fool thought she could scare us. Not with you here, son." The weight of their words hit me hard. For a moment, I wasn't the commander of the SWAT team. I wasn't the badge, the authority, the man who had tackled Karen to the ground. I was just a husband, a grandson, a protector, and I had done what I was sworn to do, protect the innocent. The days that followed spread like wildfire. Videos of Karen's breakdown flooded the internet. Headlines screamed, "HOA woman opens fire on neighbors, taken down by SWAT commander." The community she once terrorized now laughed at her downfall. Parents held their kids a little closer. Neighbors finally walked the streets without fear, and for the first time in years, the lake felt peaceful again. As for Karen, the charges stacked: high attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, illegal discharge of a firearm. Her reign was over, and the throne she once built on fear had been reduced to ashes. But for me, standing on that porch days later, watching the sunset with my wife's hand in mine and my grandfather resting beside me, it wasn't about the headlines. It wasn't about the badge or the power or even the victory. It was about family, about standing between the people you love and the darkness that tries to destroy them. Karen thought she could take that from me. She thought her rules, her anger, her gun could break us. But she forgot one thing. I wasn't just another man in her neighborhood. I wasn't another victim waiting to be silenced. I was the commander of the SWAT team, and when she fired on my family, she fired on the wrong man, because in the end, justice always finds its mark. And that's how it all ended. But now I want to hear from you. What's your opinion? Did Karen finally get what she deserved? Or do you think I went too far? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss the next unbelievable HOA or entitled people story. Your support keeps these stories alive, and trust me, the next one might be even crazier.